Welcome, this is Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Schwartz, and today we're doing a little bit of a special edition episode, of course, for the new college football season that may or may not be happening in the fall. It may happen in the spring. We don't really know, but there's only one person that could come on to break it down with me and talk about it all. He was the Ohio State to my Michigan as we grew up, and he still is, as that's probably the most time we talk is during that game, of course. But we've always stayed close. It's Luke Lengel. Luke, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm hopeful that there's going to be some college football, hopefully some Ohio State, Michigan, but I don't know. We'll see.
It's kind of sad that with the whole being a Michigan fan thing that I was kind of relieved that the season was canceled in a way. I'd be like, okay, don't have to worry about Jim Harbaugh's future. You know, they're going to go a solid 8-4 this year. Maybe this is kind of nice. It's sad.
They won't lose this year, or maybe. So, that's good for you.
Yeah, who knows? So, I know we've actually had a little bit of football already, and I see here that there is some football being played tonight, I believe. UAB and Southern Miss, it looks like, playing some games here. So, teams have played, and I know last week, I believe it was Central Arkansas, if I'm correct, was playing an FCS game I saw on ESPN. So, football has been played, which is... I'm much more bullish on the NFL. We have a pod coming up next week with JJ on that, just because there's collective bargaining and stuff like that, and I'm just so not prepared for an actual college football season. And I do think they're going to play. I think they're going to start at least, but I don't think they're going to finish. What do you think about that?
So it's weird because it's like half the teams or some of the teams in the FBS are starting, half of them are starting and half of them are playing to postpone. And as if it happens to start, as we get closer to the end of the season, it's kind of well, is there going to be bowl games? Is there going to be a college football playoffs? Because the Big Ten and Pac-12, and they're not going to be in. So what are they going to do? So it's going to be weird to see what happens, at the end of the season during bowl and playoff season, if they're going to do anything at all. But I guess it just kind of depends on how the coronavirus trends and, 2020, anything could happen. So who knows?
Yeah, no, it's really true. And I'm looking at week 1 here. Looks like our primetime matchup here on a Saturday night is Arkansas State Memphis on ESPN. I mean, that's BYU Navy on September 7th. What's crazy is usually Labor Day, we're just, I know you and I are the same way. We're just glued to football, because they have games on Sunday, they have games on Monday, usually, and stuff like that. And it's so bizarre because those clock rhythms you have for the fall just aren't there. So, and yeah, it looks like to me here, I'm looking up now, ACC scheduled to play next week, Big 12 getting underway next week as well. So I am so torn because you're right. None of us can really predict this because it's just all about how it trends, and especially in specific areas how it trends. But I just don't know. I feel like especially the SEC. The SEC is gonna play until there's 15 guys on each side. That's just how the SEC is. But I cannot. I don't know how stuck you are with this. I just don't see it. The fact that there's 13 games going to be played, whatever, this year. I can see, how they'll move games around and stuff like that. I know they've built that into their schedules and such like that. I just don't think we're going to see Notre Dame being 11-2 at the end of the year. I could see them being 3-1 type thing, but I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think they're going to finish if we do get underway here in the next this month?
So, I think I don't think it's going to be every team's going to have this. I don't think there's going to be a uniform finish at the end of the season. And I guess the big reason is each conference is kind of doing whatever they want. And the NCAA, it's not they're not working together at all. So like you said, the Big 12, they're doing 10 games, 9 conference, 1 non-conference games. The SEC starting in a couple weeks too. The Big Ten and Pac-12, they're not even playing. Then some of the other Power Fives are doing whatever they want. So they're not working together. So I don't see any reasonable way that they can all finish with the same amount of games, the same record, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, no, I definitely get what you're saying, and I mean, it's seen a weird like type of thing now. Notre Dame, joining the ACC this year, stuff like that. I know UCF, the AAC at least, is still having some non-conference games because we're scheduled to play Georgia Tech on the 19th. We kept that game because the ACC, I believe, also kept a couple non-conference games. So, Conference USA is still going. I mean, it's bizarre. I know, like, Air Force only has 3 games this year, or 2 games. They're just playing the service academies, and they're done. And what I want to be more optimistic because college football is probably my favorite sport. Once it gets going, I have anything to follow what I grew up with, and I look at some of these schedules. Like I look at I look at Georgia's schedule. They now with the SEC, they're at Arkansas. They play Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama all in a row. They have Florida later. Like these schedules are crazy because there's just so many more in-conference games. But the flip side is that now, especially with Georgia too, is a good example. They just had their stud transfer quarterback JB Newman opt out. So part of me too is like, even if it is football, and don't get me wrong, if they play, I'm watching. I don't care what the level quality is. Like, it's football. We're watching. I've been waiting for sports to come back for so long. I will be watching on my TV Saturday afternoon, especially because I brought actually extra college football books down here to read because I didn't think they play and I would miss it. That's how much of a psycho I am for this stuff. So I will definitely watch, but it's just here's a good thing, I guess, for me. So I have that college football model that I've been developing and that I've put the finishing touches on over the summer. I haven't updated it with anything. I haven't updated the schedules. I haven't added in the factors that the analytics that I use for it. I just haven't done it because I think I'm just going to take the year off. Just be like, this is just going to be such a weird year. I'm not even going to try to predict it with the amount of people missing, like Jamie Newman, like Jamar Chase, like Micah Parsons for Penn State in the spring. I'm not even going to try. So, yeah.
It's like you said, like there's so many people missing. It's hard to figure out like if there even is a college football playoffs, like what's going to happen. I mean, I think your model could easily predict that Clemson's probably going to win, but other than that, it's
your Buckeyes were the best team according to it preseason.
But they'll win the spring if there is a spring.
Yeah, don't see
I'm
USC hoping. Challenging them. But then, okay, so we can talk about this too, and then we can actually get into some of the football here, at least for the fall. Not USC. The spring thing is weird because hearing people like Todd McShay talk about, and this is not my realm at all, I'm not going to act like I'm a draft analyst here, but he was talking about how, like, if you're thinking about being drafted, like, in the 3rd round or earlier, you have to opt out of the spring just to get ready for the prep and, like, get the homework and stuff like that going through. And we've seen players opt out, now, like I said, like Jamie Newman even playing in the fall and such like that, and Jamar Chase as well out of LSU. So, like, that's the thing in the spring, like, it's going to be super weird by the fact that, like, people like Justin Fields will have to opt out. I know with some Michigan players, we're supposed to be top draft picks already opted out as well, and Micah Parsons again as Penn State. A linebacker will go with the top 10 easily, or top 15, whatever. Linebackers are weird. They've opted out as well. So even the spring is going to be super weird because it's going to be almost like the younger guys coming up or people who are just trying to solidify their back-end draft status.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I'm like you. I'm not really a draft expert, but I can see kind of the reason for that. Playing 2 seasons in the same year, that is taxing. I did Division III junior cross country, and I didn't even go to practice. And I could see all the work that my teammates were putting in. So to compare that to someone doing Division I for a top college football program, it's a lot, especially going from them and then going straight to an NFL team and having to have all the responsibility that you have there. So I could see, like, if you were like a top draft pick, I don't know why you wouldn't opt out, especially with how the NCAA treats you. So. Yeah,
exactly. That's a whole other issue. The NCAA really, the cracks have been exposed during this summer as well. But yeah, it's a good point too about the football type of there's no break. Like OTAs for rookie minicamps start right after the draft in April. And the proposed timeline, I believe, for some of the spring season is a January to March type, January to April type thing. So it's not like soccer, where literally the soccer season, the Champions League final was 2 weeks ago, and the soccer season starts next Saturday. So like it's not like that where they just there's no off season for them; they just keep going, stuff like that. And again, there's more squad rotation, of course, in soccer as well. So it's another whole issue there. I'm not going to get into that. So yeah, I completely agree with you. It's just going to be, I don't know, I think that's something that as we normally, we can talk about how college football is just unpredictable in itself when we try to make these predictions here. As last year evidenced by the fact I thought Texas would make the playoff and Sam Ehlinger would win the Heisman. I was super high on them. Didn't work out. But this year especially, I mean, we have the caveat, like there's no clue how this is going to play out. This whole podcast might even be a waste of time just because they might get shut down in 2 weeks and we really don't know. But of course, this will get me downloads and stuff like that, so it's never a waste of time. So it's just gonna be super weird. So I guess we should probably cover who is playing in the fall, right? All the conferences.
Yeah.
So we have, I know for sure, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, the American, UCF, Cincinnati, the top group of 5. Looks like, based on the schedule, Conference USA is also giving it a go here. I see Marshall, Middle Tennessee in here. Is the Sun Belt playing? Sun Belt's playing as well?
Those are the 6 FBS, I believe.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and FCS is obviously still playing somewhat?
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure what the status of the FCS. I think most of them canceled or postponed, as well as D2 and D3. So it's really just those top 6 conferences that are committed to playing.
Yeah, which will be fun. Where do you want to start?
Well, I feel like the SEC probably has the most meat, so I suppose we can start there.
Okay.
Because they probably have the best chance of playing, even if everyone else cancels. So.
Yeah, I mean that's just their identity, right? I did say months ago, joking in March when stuff like this was being talked about, I said, if they cancel football, the SEC will invade. The South will invade the North again, and just it's going to start another civil war. And as it very well might. I mean, all jokes aside there. But yeah, it's just gonna be so bizarre. Okay, so when I was running my numbers for the the season got turned up on its head, it's very clear. At the top of the SEC, there's a lot of meat, like you said, and I mean the SEC is such high level talent. Alabama was not surprisingly favored, if I remember correctly. Georgia was around there too. LSU, a pretty good bounce back year as well, projected, although not the highs they received with Joe Burrow. And then you have teams like Auburn, Texas A&M, always dangerous, always lurking. And obviously, of course, I don't want to leave out Florida, who is just can't get past the team named Georgia to get to the SEC championship game. How would you handicap a lot of this, especially now with the news that Jamie Newman will not be playing? And I believe in Jamar Chase, obviously, as well, but I believe for the vast majority of it, a lot of the key SEC players are still opted in, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm. So Alabama, like you said, they're kind of a shoo-in to. Well, I wouldn't say shoo-in, but they're going to perform well. They have Mac Jones, and I don't know who the starting quarterback there is. I know there's Mac Jones, and they have that 5-star guy who's pretty good, Bryce Young. Mm-hmm. But either way, Alabama, they're always going to perform. So like you said before, Jamie Newman opting out, with quarterbacks being such a big part of how teams perform, I think that'll be something to look for, especially in Florida's case, who, they played well. Like you said, they just can't really get past Georgia. Maybe this is the year that they're able to top the SEC East. So I think that's a team to look out for. LSU, they lost a lot of key pieces, namely Joe Burrow. They lost their quarterbacks coach Joe Brady too to Carolina. So, that was also a big part of their offense. So, they're obviously not going to have as good year as last year, but, and then, there's the other teams like Auburn, like you said, who, is always going to be in the mix. So just a lot of good competition. So I think it'll end up being Alabama versus Florida in the SEC championship game. I think that's the best bet. But
Yeah, so you're taking Florida over the Kirby Smart's Georgia Bulldogs.
I think so, yeah. I think they just have more sure pieces, and I think the quarterback position is that important, but, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle Trask is super underrated, I think, in terms of the the national scene. I mean, they don't no one really talks about him in terms of the upper echelon, but he performed very well last year for the Gators.
Yeah, and I mean, there are only 2 losses, I believe. They lost by 2 touchdowns to LSU and a touchdown to Georgia, so it wasn't like they were getting blown out at all. They're hanging with those 2 really good teams, so,
Yeah, I agree too. And here, you look at their schedule even. Florida has Texas A&M on the road, Georgia at home, Jacksonville probably, and then at Tennessee in the final week there. So those are the only 3. Oh, and LSU, sorry, I missed LSU. Those are their 4 ranked opponents there. So, and of course they have to play at Mississippi, at Ole Miss with the new man Lane Kiffin in there, which will be a crucial thing I want to talk about as well. So in terms of the top, I mean, Alabama's Alabama, and Mac Jones looked very good last year. So you always hope, when you go from, a other star quarterback like Tua to somebody else, that's when the decline hits, kind of like Ohio State, you go from the run the quarterbacks they had, and then you're like, oh, is Justin Fields really going to be this good? And he was, of course. So the dynasty continues. So Mac Jones looked really good, and like you said, Bryce Young could win that job, but my guess would be Mac Jones. Patrick Surtain, the corner, top NFL prospect, he's still playing, as is Devonta Smith for them as well. So, I mean, they come back, and of course, Alabama too, even if players get COVID, even if they opt out. I mean, they've got 5 stars on 5 stars. I mean, it's insane. So, and that's the type of depth, and especially this year, I think, college football is a sport of depth for sure. But even now, more than ever, it's going to be, and that's where Alabama has such a giant advantage over teams like Auburn, over Texas A&M, as well as A&M has recruited under Jimbo Fisher. I just don't think this is the year they're going to break through. And I mean, it's a soft pick almost. I feel a little soft picking Alabama, but I mean, it just makes the most sense in a weird season. I mean, you just got to go with what you know, right? Yeah. And then as for the East, I'm really curious to see JT Daniels now, the USC transfer, as the Georgia QB, because that's the thing that, as much as Jake Fromm was a lovable guy in terms of the stories on him, he's a down-to-earth Hunter Fisher type of guy.
Yeah.
He didn't, and obviously Georgia had such success, but it wasn't enough, and obviously that's proven out by the fact that they have come so close to beating Alabama the last 3 years and have not, for national championship games and for SEC titles. So JT Daniels, I mean, former top recruit from USC coming in, I just wonder what type of element he'll give, and obviously he was injured last year, which led USC to Keaton Slovis to take over and destroy. And so, I mean, once again, just certainty. I like Kyle Trask as the Florida QB, and I think Dan Mullen's really building something special. So I think we're going to get, some of the classics of our youth here, Alabama, Florida, there at the beginning of the decade with Tim Tebow and people like, who's the Alabama quarterback?
A.J. McCarron?
Yeah, McCarron. I think it would have been a little there. McElroy, maybe? Man.
Yeah. That sounds right.
That's back when Alabama couldn't recruit a quarterback. That was when Alabama was fun, because they'd be 11-1, and they would have one game where the quarterback threw 3 interceptions.
Good times. And now they have Tua, who's throwing 7 touchdowns a game. Good. Yeah.
Nick Saban's actually do need a quarterback to win consistently. He realized that. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna ride with you there, Alabama, Florida there. What do you think of Tennessee? That's a team we haven't brought up yet. And they're Jeremy Pruitt, he did a pretty good job last year, I would say, turned them around significantly. They're ranked 25th to start the season, which seems ambitious to me.
Yeah. So I'm not super familiar with Tennessee, but, the SEC, a lot of teams they're always dangerous, and I feel like I don't even know what happened with Tennessee last year. Was that one of those teams that they did really bad? I don't really entirely remember. I'm about to pull up
I'm pulling it up now as well. Let's see. So they started 2-5 and then won their last 5 games. I'll be against South Carolina, UAB, Kentucky, Missouri, Vanderbilt. So you could argue games you should win. However, they did win them. It looks like they had some quarterback troubles as well. going through there. So yeah, and then they beat Indiana in their bowl game. So they ended up finishing 8-5.
Yeah, this is not too bad. So we'll see with the new coach, like you said, if they're able to make some noise in the SEC.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot of thoughts on Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. So off the national radar for you. That makes sense. Well, the thing I will say for people jumping on them is Florida last year, 34-3. Georgia, 43-14. Alabama, 35-13. They did not win any of those games. So it's tough break there. Okay. So we expect the SEC to still be a meat grinder here. Just looking through the schedules, I mean, you have Alabama's 3rd, Georgia's 4th, Florida 8th, LSU 6th, Auburn 11th, A&M 13th, and Tennessee 25th. I don't know. I honestly didn't look at the rankings too much because they include the Big Ten and Pac-12, which I thought was kind of odd.
Yeah.
But I guess it gives you a proper landscape here. Yeah, and then those SEC teams in there. I mean, just a grinder throughout the whole thing. So that'll be Yeah. So there we go. Alabama, Florida, SEC. Let's jump. I would say if we're going by meat, we should jump to the Big 12 then. I would presume. Oklahoma's ranked 5th. That feels too high for me.
Well, so Oklahoma, they have their new quarterback. What's his name? They got new 5-star freshman quarterback or redshirt freshman quarterback who's really good.
Yeah, Rattler,
yeah. So it seems like year after year, I feel like the past couple of years, Oklahoma's consistently been quarterback university as regards to college football quarterbacks. They've kind of produced the best quarterbacks, and with, like I said before, that's such an important position. So I feel like if Rattler is, well, I wouldn't say as good, but is near the level of Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield in regards to talent, then I feel like it could be a typical Oklahoma year where they're scoring 51 points and they're giving up 50. But again, with all this uncertainty, I feel like a Lincoln Riley team's a good bet to be that high. So I don't think it's too high. I think they're right where they should be.
Okay, yeah, it just Rattler, like you said, he's a former 5-star, and Lincoln Riley's really turned. I mean, I don't want to say lemons in the lemonade because Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield were obviously very talented, but he's literally produced Heisman Trophy winners and number 1 draft picks. And Jalen Hurts even got picked in the 2nd round, which no one else would have. I didn't think he'd go that high. So obviously the guy knows what he's doing. There was something funny I saw though reading in the preview thing. I forgot who pointed out, but Lincoln Riley hasn't beaten an SEC team yet in charge of Oklahoma, I believe. He's lost to LSU, Georgia, and then I want to say Alabama. Did they play once or something in the playoff? He just can't get over the SEC team hump to get Oklahoma to the next level. Which that's the barrier you got to go through, right? It's the SEC team's the best team that year. So I don't know, Oklahoma to me, I wasn't super high on them last year. I was not surprised at all when they got rocked by LSU in the semifinal. I wasn't surprised at that. And here, I'm looking at this thing, I would probably take Penn State against them. I'd probably take Florida against them. I see them about the level of Oregon, that they should win their conference. But in terms of being a top 5, I don't know. And that's just me. But if Rattler comes in and lights it on fire, then in a Big 12, the Big 12's odd this year. Just top to bottom overall. And obviously they didn't have to adjust their schedule too much because the Big 12 already plays a round-robin schedule there. So speaking of which, of Oklahoma, did you see that they're offering their first game on pay-per-view?
Oh, I did see that. It isn't against someone who is it? Who are they all? Who isn't like some crappy team too?
Missouri State.
Oh, jeez. Oh, boy. JJ
sent that to me, and I texted back. I was like, look, if it's Oklahoma, Texas, I'm intrigued. I'm not saying I'm buying it. I'm intrigued. Because I've now become a big UFC fan, so I buy those pay-per-views. And the difference with that is I'm getting people complain the main event did this. It was yeah, but you get 6 hours of entertainment. A football game, there could be a crap football game where you're I paid $30 for this, and I'm struggling, and I can't flip it to something else because I bought it. So that would be interesting. So do we have to have the Texas is back conversation?
Who knows? Maybe. They still have Ellinger, and, last year was just a disaster class, really. It may be, anything can happen. As weird as this year is, maybe this is the year that Texas is back.
Ellinger is too.
Just
I mean, I know he's very inconsistent, but he's too talented for them not to break through at some point, right?
yeah, I mean, like, and looking at their schedule from last year, so they lost to LSU by a touchdown. That was a very good game. They lost to Oklahoma by a touchdown. Then they lost to TCU by 10 points. Then they lost to Iowa State. Was it the last second field goal? It might have been. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Then they lost to Baylor right after, 24-10. So, yeah, just inconsistent, like you said. But then they did blast Utah in their bowl game. So, maybe it's the year. I mean, it's too unpredictable. Who knows?
Yeah. And I feel like putting them at 14th as well in the AP poll is just right. Like, it's just square in the middle. Don't really know. I'm surprised. Oklahoma State up there, I see, as well. I believe that's... Oh, Iowa State's on the back half as well. I mean, once you start getting down in that second tier, the Big 12, it's just like anything could happen. Like if Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, obviously, I don't think they should be favored. Same thing with Iowa State. I mean, we've seen that story play out before. And they both have quarterbacks who have started a year. Oklahoma State has Spencer Sanders, I believe, and Iowa State is Brock Purdy. So, I mean, it's and both are coached pretty well, though obviously Oklahoma State had the Mike Gundy fiasco over the summer. So, yeah. And obviously, Chuba Hubbard.
Oh, yeah. He's like probably a top 10 player. Top two running back probably too. So
is he playing this year? I gotta look it up. I'm making sure he's playing this year because I assume he is if they're ranked that high because he is for sure their best player.
Yeah, so, I haven't heard anything that he's not playing. So
yeah,
thank you.
So with that all being said, we're both taking Oklahoma, I presume.
Yeah, I'll take Oklahoma.
I would love to pick Texas, but I got burned last year. So Hubbard is playing. No. Yeah, okay. Hubbard is playing. Okay. So now we're going to the ACC, which this might be the shortest one because just don't really feel the need to discuss. Clemson's very good.
Yes, they are. So if all the teams were playing, it would be Clemson, Ohio State, and then everyone else. But now it's just Clemson and everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, literally, yeah, it would be. So Trevor Lawrence is back. Etienne, I don't know how to pronounce it. Travis Etienne's back. Yeah, I mean, and they're just going to be super good. They're going to kill everybody probably, and that's going to be that. They're only, I think, when before the season got a little weird and everything, so I haven't updated these numbers. But the only game Clemson wasn't like because the way my thing works is if you get to a certain difference, like it ends up being 100% win probability, even though obviously there's nothing's 100%. The only game that wasn't like that for Clemson was against Notre Dame. And they were still like 85% to win. I mean, that's how good they look and should be this year against a schedule where I'm looking at the ACC now. You got Notre Dame 10th now, and North Carolina ranked 18th. And I think Louisville could be fun. Florida State year one under, God, I forgot his name, the old Memphis coach. Goodness gracious. Mike Norvell. There we go.
Yeah.
Virginia's always weird. Yeah, and like other than that, like, half the conference is just like, they're not competitive.
Yeah, so I feel like this is going to be a Clemson year. We'll see what happens with, like you said, Notre Dame and North Carolina. But really not much to talk about there. It's just Clemson all the way, and who else is going to challenge them in the college football playoffs, if there even is one.
Yeah, well, I agree with you there. So, do you want to talk about Notre Dame? Notre Dame Georgia Conference. I feel like we should talk about this for at least a minute or two. Big deal.
It is exciting. A lot of people always complaining, or when Notre Dame complained that they didn't get enough respect because they didn't join a conference, and now they're in one. So, yeah, that's definitely boosts CC from what it could have been. It would have been just North Carolina ranked, and
I just like Notre Dame joining the ACC feels so wrong. Like they've always been linked with the Big Ten for decades, and then they're in the ACC. It's so random to me.
Yeah, but they're in a conference instead of being a weird independent team that's actually good. So,
right, yeah, I agree. Now we don't have to put them in the playoff. Well, there's only 1 year thing, so hopefully they joined one. That way we can actually compare them. And it's like, well, Notre Dame went 12-0. It's like, yeah, but who'd you play? And then you get stomped in the playoff. We've seen that story before. So should we talk about Sam Howell in North Carolina just to keep this the ACC talk a little longer? Because Sam Howell, one of the returning sophomore, lit it up as a true freshman last year. And it could be interesting for a North Carolina team, with Mac Brown, that he's had a surprisingly quick turnaround there for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, so, I'm pretty sure he's a decently high draft pick, too. Obviously there's Fields and Lawrence, but I think he's kind of high in some NFL. I'm not sure. It might be someone else, but a quarterback position is really important. And for someone who did so well last year, it could be an interesting team. Obviously there's not a lot of players to challenge Clemson, but anyone who can keep up offensively, who has a good quarterback like North Carolina, there's a sliver of a chance. So I think they'll do relatively well in the ACC. Bar Clemson. And do they play Notre Dame? I think they do.
Yeah, they were supposed to, at least before they redid the schedule.
Okay.
Let me double check. Let's see. I'm on the page right now. November 7th.
Okay.
So yes,
that'll be an interesting game. And Ian Book's back too, yeah, for Notre Dame. Okay, yeah. So I think that'll be a good matchup.
The perennial mid-tier Ian Book. We'll see if he can elevate.
Well, I mean, comparatively.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm talking about top 15 quarterbacks in the country. Obviously, Kansas would love to have Ian Book.
Oh yeah.
So you're right. It is comparative. Okay, I don't necessarily like Conference USA. I'm kind of about Independence. And the Sun Belt, I think we can just agree Appalachian State versus Louisiana will be the time. That'll be the fun time. Which you should definitely watch. If that's when those two teams play, you should watch it because that's a lot of fun. That game was a lot of fun last year. They're both pretty solid teams now.
Yeah.
But the AAC, I think the American is worth talking about a little bit, and it's not just because I'm a UCF student. I swear.
No, they got some good teams. Cincinnati too. Yeah, they got some good teams.
The analytics, like FPI and SP Plus by Bill Conley, very high in UCF. Like when I put the numbers in, UCF came out just below or ahead of Michigan. I know Michigan's not super high, but like just to start the season, so they're super high on UCF as the analytics. I know, of course, there were some yesterday or 2 days ago, a couple 10 guys dropped out along the. 6 of them were along the trenches on the offensive line, defensive line. So Darryl Mack dropped out, the quarterback who, of course, won the conference championship a couple of years ago against Memphis. So had some turnover there because of COVID. But I know Cincinnati's a spot above UCF. JJ and I have been arguing about this for a while, and I'm sure we'll do something before we play, if we get there, before UCF plays Cincinnati, because that decided the division last year. I would peg UCF to win this conference. And that might be just me being a homer, but I really think, Dylan Gabriel, if you watch his tape last year, he was infuriating to me because he throws a beautiful deep ball. He's a perfect fit for our system with Josh Heupel, except he just has no pocket presence, which would make me lose my mind with sacks, stuff like that. So I'm assuming that's something that gets fixed, playing throughout the summer, year 2. And I think UCF, obviously, we reload, we have a ton of weapons as well, so... The defense will always be the question, but I think we'll do pretty well there.
Yeah, I mean UCF, obviously they're going to be a good team. Cincinnati, it's probably going to be those two, probably. I believe that Cincinnati has Ritter coming back, Desmond Ritter.
Yep.
It's their starter. Yeah, so he played very well last year. Memphis, they're always a high flying power offense. So there's a lot of interesting teams in the AAC. Definitely the best Power 5 conference. So yeah. I'm not sure who's going to win. I'm not super familiar with the likes of UCF and Cincinnati enough to say who I think is better simply because they're so close.
Yeah, I know Memphis has Brady White returning, which I feel like he's been the Memphis quarterback for my whole college experience and years going into high school. I feel like he's been there 8 years, and he's somehow back again at Memphis. So I guess I know a lot of people are projecting a step back for the Tigers. but because of Mike Norvell leaving. But I mean, like you said, always dangerous, and I believe UCF has to play them as well. And I think the Cincinnati, Memphis, and UCF, the three top teams, all have to play each other during the season. If I'm correct, yeah, we have to play Memphis in October. Cincinnati has to come to us in November. So yeah, it'll be interesting. So, okay, here's a question for you. Now we kind of did our conference by conference, because I assume, should the Big Ten and Pac-12 play in the spring, we will do another one of these for them, correct?
Yeah.
That's a good point. All right,
yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Why? So UCF, right? We had a game against Florida International University, which is near Miami. It's down there. That game was postponed. I understand because we kept Georgia Tech as our one non-conference game, because obviously Georgia Tech is just a bigger opponent. Why can't UCF play a team in their own state anyway? That doesn't make any sense to me. If it's conference only, whatever, one non-conference, like how is that restricted? That doesn't make any sense to me.
So it seems like proximity like that, it doesn't really matter, because I mean, obviously there's non-conference games you can schedule, but with everything that's happened, it seems like each conference is just like, and I think we talked about this earlier in the podcast, like each conference is like doing their own thing, and no one's able to collaborate. So even if you're so close, like the conferences are so incompetent that it's not going to matter. So it's really just further proving how much of a tornado or like wreck the NCAA is.
Yeah, well, especially like you said, I mean, my guess is, thinking about that is probably because of the testing and stuff, right? Just getting those protocols in, too, is probably a really big deal right now for the conferences and such. That does make a lot of sense. I guess I just wasn't thinking about it in that way. So do we have an update on what the playoff will look like? Is it still going to be 4 teams in January, and then the Big Ten and Pac-12 will figure it out?
So they did release, I know the college football playoffs, they released when they're going to do their rankings. So I don't think they've said they're not going to do it. So I'm assuming if the Big Ten and Pac-12 don't go in the fall, then they're just going to go with it as is. So I haven't heard anything otherwise to suggest that they're going to reduce it or not do it altogether.
Yeah, let's see. I'm looking. Heather Dinich from ESPN published an article about the split championship, so I'm trying to coast through it here. They will end on December 20th, Selection Day. So it looks like they're still going to do top 4 teams. So, and I guess then the weekly top 25 rankings will exclude the Big Ten and Pac-12 teams, which is going to be hilarious because you're going to get schools like the third best Sun Belt team could be ranked, right? That's how deep we're going to go, isn't it?
Good times, yeah.
UCF's going to be in the top 10 by mid-season just because there's not going to be a lot of teams left. Let's see. There's been no discussion about CFP in the spring. There will be, doesn't look like 2 CFP championships. They're saying. Okay, so I guess this means we can. Oh, the Rose Bowl's a whole other thing. Goodness, well, they could do the Rose Bowl there. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do the playoff then. Let's do the projection based on who's playing in the fall. Because why not? Let's just go for it.
All right. So after Clemson, we can do the 2, 3, and 4 then.
Yeah, agree. No, 100% agree.
Yeah. Okay. Boy, I feel like if there's any year for the SEC to get 3 teams in the college football playoffs, this is the year. It's gotta be. Oh boy. So, obviously Clemson won for me. I feel like Alabama's probably a good bet to go too. I think they'll be in the playoffs regardless. I think I'm going to go Florida as well. I think this is where 2 SEC teams get in. I think, obviously with no Big Ten and Pac-12, I think whoever's playing Alabama in the championship game, unless they get absolutely hammered, or whoever it is, I think it'll be Florida. So I'm going to stick with Florida. And then I'll go Oklahoma. I'll play it safe. I think those are... I know at least Clemson, Alabama, and Oklahoma are pretty safe. Clemson's definitely. But Florida, I think. I think Florida.
Florida's the bold one. So
Yeah, the bold one.
I did not think about this. I didn't even think we'd do this, but I just, on the whim, here we go. So no Pac-12 and Big Ten. So I'm looking through right now the past 6. We've had 6 of these now? That's crazy.
Yeah.
6 playoffs. The Pac-12 has only sent 2 entrants, if I'm reading this correctly. Washington in 2017, who got slapped by Alabama, and then Oregon, who lost to Ohio State in the title game back in 2015. Mm-hmm. So, in a way, the Pac-12, I mean, I know there are jokes made about this already, that the Pac-12 canceled football, and once again, they will not be part of the national championship picture. So, losing them, even what, like, Oregon would be the main team that I think could compete, but I don't even think they'd be in the conversation. So, that doesn't change that much for me. So now, like you said, Clemson's a given. I think Notre Dame's the only real team, or North Carolina, I could really see tripping them up, and I think Notre Dame won't. So I think Clemson will do that. We don't have to worry about Notre Dame now because they're part of a conference, so don't have to worry about their weird schedule. So we can think about that. So we have Clemson. SEC winner will get in unless they have 3 losses. Like, it's just going to happen. So I'll take Alabama. Once again, playing a bit safe in a weird season. I'm not high on Oklahoma. I mean, I think they'll win the Big 12, like I said earlier, but I don't know. Would they get in with 2 losses? Because I feel like they're going to drop some games. I'm going to come back to that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have Clemson, Alabama. Yeah, Oklahoma has to make it, right? There's no other Power 5 conferences to play around with.
I mean, exactly. Yeah, like, unless 3 SEC teams get in, then, oh boy, that'll be a fun day.
And look, I mean, most of this podcast has been saying we're playing it safe. Obviously, stick to the guns about the, just the established powers, the depth, all that stuff. If UCF goes 11-0, they make it, right? I'm throwing this out there. Okay, to take my bias off, if Cincinnati goes 11-0, I mean, this is the year, right?
I mean, this is definitely the year, yeah.
You don't like this. You don't like this.
I just don't know. I just don't know what the committee would do, because, like, so it's either, so if this were the case, it would be UCF or, like, the 2nd or 3rd SEC team.
Right.
And I don't know, because there'd be arguments like, well, the AAC, the UCF, they don't play good teams, so we got to pick Georgia or Florida or whatever. But if they go 11-0 and they're convincing, I mean, like,
yeah,
I feel like they do have a good chance. Yeah.
To me, the thing I'm thinking about is the fact that just if the season goes the way I think it will, like, there's just war of attrition, and even in the SEC, there's just attrition. I could easily see Alabama not only losing 1 game but 2, but I think the champion will get in anyway. But, like, teams like Florida, Florida's the runner-up. What if they lose? I don't know, like, they drop a game at Tennessee and then they lose to Alabama in the title game. Georgia, if they lose twice in the regular season, LSU. Like, all these scenarios are very easy for me to think about, because there's just, like, Georgia has to play Alabama during the season and stuff like that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility if they lose to Alabama, Florida, finish 2nd in the SEC East, and stuff like that. So that's to me what I'm thinking, is that there's just going to be, like, they're playing such intense games all year. And even, like, teams like, Ole Miss, like with Lane Kiffin, Mississippi State with Mike Leach, we didn't mention them yet. Like, it's going to be weird in the SEC already without the fact that it's going to be the COVID stuff. So I'm taking this a little bit far with its conclusion. But, and I will say UCF, just because obviously I think, they were rated the best team by my metrics. They are obviously the school I go to.
Yeah.
But also, I think one thing here, and I wish we kept our game. We had a game against North Carolina week 1 here. It's going to be at Friday night this week, actually. It was going to be tomorrow, which would have been a showcase game for UCF to really get it going, get the season going against Sam Howell and the Tar Heels. We kept our game against Georgia Tech, which, if you want to go with I know Georgia Tech's Georgia Tech. However, just getting the 1 Power 5 team, and I just glanced at Cincinnati's schedule. They don't have a Power 5 team on their schedule, because they did have Nebraska, obviously canceled. So And you're right. Like some of these teams, Memphis would have to be at a decent level. Houston would have to show up this year. Temple would as well. Cincinnati would have to keep the level that they're at. So it would have to be a decent schedule, of course. Because I look through the schedule right now. Part of the thing is I'm thinking is like, all right, UCF could go 11-0 easily against the schedule. The issue then though is that is it too easy of a schedule? So I just feel like if there's a year ever, it's going to be this year, and I'll say, oh, we'll do it. And I don't care if it has the giant asterisk with the fact that Ohio State wasn't eligible. It doesn't matter.
So another thing to consider, I don't know how big this would be, when in the college football playoffs, but these teams are playing different numbers of games. We've mentioned multiple times how each conference is doing everything on their own. So, I think we're talking about the SEC and AAC right now. So the SEC, they're playing 10 conference games. The AAC is playing 8 conference games, but they also can play up to 4 non-conference. And you said UCF, they have 1 non-conference right now, so they'd be playing 9.
Yeah.
So I wonder how much that's going to come into question. Where it's like, well, these teams are playing more games than this team, so that might explain some things, or it might boost or hurt other teams. So I think there's a lot of factors that it's not that are not going to be stuff that we've seen before. I feel like, and it's just going to make everything all more weird. Which, So
right, that could definitely give them definitely give the committee the excuse to be like, yeah, we picked an 8-2 Georgia team just because the eye test over 9-0 UCF, and I could definitely I think to your point, you're probably correct with being safer with that prediction. So, it'll just be it'll be crazy. It's going to be such a weird year. So you have Clemson, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Florida.
Yeah,
I have the same top 3 and then UCF replacing Florida just for fun. Why not?
No, I mean if there is a year to make the college football playoffs and you're not in the Big Ten or Pac-12, this is the year.
Yeah. Do they give out a Heisman for just the fall? They have to, right? If they're doing the playoff.
So, I think the Heisman is kind of like separate from everything, so they're going to do things their own way. But I feel like if they're going to do a college football playoffs, they're definitely going to do a Heisman. So
I don't even know who's the fall. Oh, it's Lawrence, right? It has to be Lawrence. Sorry,
Trevor Lawrence.
Is there anybody else? I was trying to think of Oklahoma has Rattler. Mac Jones doesn't scream Heisman candidate to me.
Yeah.
As high as I think we both are on Kyle Trask, I don't think he's going to be in there.
Yeah.
Dang. So wait, if I go to, I'm just kidding. I'm going to look up the odds right now. I'm just curious because Lawrence would then have to be an insane favorite if they even are taking action on it.
Yeah, and running. I mean, obviously it's basically been a quarterback award, but running backs CT and Hubbard are 2 to consider. I don't think they're going to win simply because they're just running backs unless they have 2,000-yard season.
Oh God, yeah, Ian Book's in the top 10. Oh my God,
good stuff.
All right, Jamie Newman's still on there, so we got to take him out. Trevor Lawrence 2-1, which is pretty. I mean, that's pretty high or pretty low. I mean, for odds, before the season even starts, already 2-1. Rattler's 9-1. So a guy who's thrown 13 passes is second in Heisman odds.
Good times, good stuff.
This is you're not going to get this for third. Third and fourth are ridiculous. De'Aaron King from Miami, 12-1.
Oh. He just transferred, from Houston, right? I mean, I think.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just saying he transferred from Houston, right?
Yeah, and I get the appeal. I mean, he was very good at Houston and stuff, but the Hurricanes aren't getting sniffing contention. Come on, you can't do a 6-4 Miami team and bam, De'Aaron King. That's ridiculous. All right. Miles Brennan, 14-1 from LSU. So you're just predicting that LSU system carries over, which you covered as well, that Joe Brady left, so I don't think that happens. Sam Ehlinger, 14-1, my man, my boy. Jamie Newman was 16-1. Mac Jones, 16-1, that feels right. Chuba Hubbard, 20-1. But I feel like it feels pretty good just because of the explosiveness. Ian Book, 20-1 as well. That's... I mean, I'm looking at the rest of the list, though, and I can't really argue with it that he's up there. Sam Howell, 20-1, followed by Bo Nix from Auburn.
Oh, Bo Nix. Boy.
Kyle Trask 25-1, Etienne 25-1. Then you get like Najee Harris, Spencer Sanders. You have Bryce Young, who's in the top 15. So you have 2 Alabama quarterbacks in the top 15. That's how weird this is right now.
SEC bias added again.
Mikael Cunningham's in there from Louisville. Goodness gracious.
I mean, after Trevor Lawrence, who knows? Probably at least one of those quarterbacks is going to break out and at least make it a conversation, I feel like. So.
Yeah, let's get. I mean, we still have some time here. Let's play. Let's think about this. All right. So if it's not Lawrence, it's got to be a guy that has a shot at winning his conference. Right? They're not going to give the Heisman to a non-conference winner.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So the Oklahoma quarterback Radier, is that how you pronounce it? I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Rattler, maybe? I don't know.
Rattler. Rattler, yeah. So I feel like that's definitely one to look at, with how Oklahoma's produced quarterbacks, and he has a really good shot at winning his conference.
Yeah. I would also give Ellinger a decent shot, too. Just because I feel like if it's not Oklahoma, it's Texas.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And if this is Texas's year, then he definitely has the talent to put up some numbers. So.
Right. And then you flip that to the ACC. Well, ACC's Lawrence. SEC, then you have, I mean, it's so many people, though. You have Mac Jones. If you see Florida getting to the conference title game, then it's Kyle Trask, at least because they have one football game. Anything could happen. Don't bet on Bo Nix.
I mean, I don't know. Those quarterbacks just don't scream like they're explosive quarterbacks who are going to put up big numbers. But if they win their conference, I mean, like, maybe. I don't know.
Dylan Gabriel was 66-1 on there. I mean, if he wins the AAC and then UCF wins the national championship, who knows?
I mean,
I'm getting ahead
he's
of
going to have to put up like 80 touchdowns, but,
I know. Like 6 touchdowns a game still won't get recognized. I mean, Kellen Moore didn't win during his time at Boise State. I mean, it's not going to happen for a group of 5 person. So there you go. So we have Lawrence, Rattler, Ellinger, maybe Mac Jones. I mean, yeah, that's such a weird Heisman. Goodness gracious. Maybe just stay away. If you're a gambler. Just don't. Just take the fall off. Go take your girlfriend out to a nice couple of restaurants and stuff like that. Just to save your money this season.
Yeah, but so how does it even change though with like the Pac-12 and Big Ten? Because Justin Fields, obviously, but after that, like, is there any other?
Listed.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to think of any players that would be like real contenders.
I guess you could say a decent, like a mid-tier long shot probably on that Howell level would be like Keane Slovis, right, from USC.
Yeah.
The Oregon quarterback's brand new as well, so can't even say that. The Pac-12 doesn't. Utah's basically having a reset season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess that's what I would do. Those are the people I could think about. I mean, if you want to throw in just the Michigan person, if they blew up, but they won't. I mean, or who's Penn State quarterback? It's what's his face? I
don't even know.
He was very mid-tier last year, so that's why I'm forgetting his name. But he could have taken a step forward this year, I guess. Yeah, it's weird.
Clifford or Sean Clifford.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's who it is. Yeah. So I mean. All right, so we're both on Lawrence there. It's just a no.
Yeah, I mean, has to be really, unless Clemson, like, I don't know. It's got to be Lawrence.
Oh man, how many? So this happens with the NBA as well. This will be the last thing we can get out of here. The NBA. I was talking with Sal this week, and I asked him about the asterisk for the title, whatever. And he flipped it on the other way, and I've heard some sports writers do this as well, is that actually it's harder to win this year's title because of all the weird conditions. So with the asterisk thing, like obviously it's a bit different in college football because you're taking literal contenders out of the situation. But like, for instance, the SEC, if Florida or someone or like Auburn does win, and it's a little weird, but they make the argument like this is the hardest year to win the SEC though. What do you say to that?
So, I mean, obviously, there's no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind saying, in some senses, it's harder to win. Certain conferences like the SEC, but On the other hand, you're taking 40% of the major players, quote unquote, out of the championship equation. Most notably Ohio State, and then there's Wisconsin, Penn State, Oregon. As you're taking all those teams out of contention, it's easy. Like we were talking about earlier, there's this is the year to make the playoffs, which I think signals to, at least in college football standpoint, makes it easier to win. So obviously it's not like, they don't deserve a national championship if they do win it, because, college football, anything can happen, and, any team can win on any given day. But I think in some sense, an asterisk might be necessary because, again, 40% of the team's big players are gone, or 35% or whatever. So
yeah. Right, and we're missing all the non-conference matchups, like Ohio State, Oregon, Auburn was scheduled to play, I know, big game and stuff like that, obviously Wisconsin, Notre Dame, like those type of games were supposed to happen, now they're not, which really, really sucks, I think, in my opinion. That's because there's so many savory matchups at the beginning of the year, LSU, Texas, another one, and now they're all gone.
Yeah.
Or most
of them. But like with the NBA, that's a completely different, where all the teams are still there. So, but yeah, college football, I think it goes sport by sport, whether you put an asterisk on this year's championship and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. All I'm saying is if UCF wins the title, it's not an asterisk. It's real. We're going to put that banner up, baby. You have no idea how crazy the place would go.
Oh boy, that'll be a conversation.
I think all of the ESPN people would lose their minds. Like the SEC especially, like the University of Florida fans out here would lose their minds if that happened. Which I think now it has to happen, right? I mean, it's 2020. What else could happen? So, I was thinking about this. We should do this probably once a month. Check in college football, just see how it's going and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe next month, the Trump will have pushed the Big Ten to a play, and Ohio State, Michigan is back on. Who knows?
I was going to leave. That's an emergency podcast if that happens. I mean, oh, man. I was going to leave that one alone. I saw that on the, the ESPN ticker, and I was like, oh, boy. I was just going to leave that one alone there. I just thought he was very positive conversation. Oh, all right. Never mind.
Oh, boy.
Here we go. Yep. There you go. Yeah, I don't know why he's not yeah, just a quick aside. I mean, the fact he's not he's focused on the Big Ten and not the election makes it interesting. I've heard a conspiracy theory that he wants to lose on purpose. I wonder if that's true. So we'll see. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I'll certainly, as we watch the football a little bit this week for sure, I will watch the Memphis game just because for no other reason than to do it. And we'll stay in touch the next couple of weeks and set up the next time that you'll come on here and we'll discuss. Hopefully have things to discuss. Hopefully the season's shut down in the next month. So we'll see, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yep, always a pleasure to be on.